Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. It's the Friday, July 17th, 2026 episode of the Marco Jure Show, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Hope everyone is ready for a great show on this Friday episode, everybody. Before we get into our weekend, and lots to discuss as always, so I will hopefully get through it all. That's what I'm hoping for. But before we get into our hard-hitting economic articles and stock market performances for the week, I want to focus first on President Trump's address to the nation yesterday evening to try to make sense of it all and where do we actually go from here. The president covered much of what I thought he would, beginning first with the strengths of the economy, labeling us as the hottest country in the world, as he put it. Briefly going over some of the Biden-era follies, of which we've heard time and time again. We've all lived through it, how we built up our military. President Trump also mentioned really quickly, just in passing, the Iran war, describing it as we were winning, before going into his keynote topic of the evening, which we all predicted it probably would be, election fraud and voting right here in America. Now, President Trump presented some new evidence detailing multiple security breaches in elections. He said were concealed by a self-proclaimed shadow government and the Biden administration itself. Now, this is obviously bombshell news. If this is true, this is treason, ladies and gentlemen. Now, he went on to say another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running a shadow government to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known. This is, again, something that is remarkable on many different levels, of course. He went on to expound on China's involvement in this, saying that he had subsequent documents to be released, whitehouse.gov, which I checked out, and I saw very little of anything. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But he said in the spring and summer of 2020, the intelligence community began detecting the Chinese election acquisition of voter databases. Now, at the time, the number of voter files was in the tens of millions. The documents then reportedly revealed that there was a concerted and conscientious effort by the intelligence community themselves not to tell President Trump, Congress, or the American people that this was going on. Now, he said we had tens of millions, so roughly anywhere between 10 to 20 million was the estimation in 2020. That number rose to 220 million by 2023. A big number. Now, what did they actually get, though? This is what I want to talk to you about. Okay, let's say this claim is true. And by the way, I'm not doubting any of this. This means they got U.S. voter registration files, your name, your address, your phone number, birthday, party affiliation, your driver's license numbers, social security numbers, signatures on file. All this information was breached by the CCP. That's a lot of records. 220 million Americans' information is now in the power, well, in the hands of the power of the Chinese Communist Party. Now, some of you will say, well, how do they do this, Jerez? How would they get into the system? How would they do this? Was it a data hack? What was somebody in the government themselves just feeding this information? And then you have to ask yourself the other question. A lot of this information is simply taken by commercial data brokers. And of course, some were assessed through breaches in the state system where this information is held. This is a big problem, folks. When all your information is taken by, I don't know, some of these tech giants, they get a hold of your information, they sell it to third parties, this information's online. Go try this sometime. I did this a couple of weeks ago. I just typed in my name randomly. Like, there's nothing that's going to come up with me. I don't post anything really on the internet. But it has these websites that get this information about people, and they'll post your name, your birthday, where you live, where you have lived, what you do for work, how much I'm looking through this. I'm like, how the hell do they have this information? So it would be good on you to go through There's actually different websites of which you can go in and they can scrub your information from the internet to prevent this from getting out to people that do these types of things or just collect information. But this is what happens when we allow these companies to come in, take our information, sell our information, and then information is put on the internet. Now, if China goes on the internet and this information is widely available to them, as it is to anybody that searches for people, obviously they'd have to go in and figure out who is who. But this is a big problem. This is a major problem. Where is our privacy? That's the first thing I said to myself. I said, I never gave anyone permission to do this. Most of you listening probably never gave anybody any type of permission to do this. Why would you want to do this? So we've got to do good on ourselves to, first of all, try to stop this. We have a right to our privacy. We have a right to our own papers. This is given to us in our Fourth Amendment. Seems which is thrown right out the window. We completely neglect it. I didn't give anyone permission to sell my information. I didn't give anyone permission to take my information. This is all part of a bigger problem, and it puts us at risk. Certainly national security risk as well. I don't want any foreign government knowing where I live or my information or anything about me. They don't have any right to that. Heck, I don't even want our federal government to know this. This is a major problem, folks. Major problem, and we're seeing this right in front of our eyes. Absolutely, 100%. So that was shocking to hear this. I did want President Trump to expound on this. Who did this? Who are the actors in the shadow government? Who are these people? Why have we not heard of anyone getting arrested if this is knowledge now given to the President of the United States? Who are these bad actors? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a government employee or government employees, could very well be plural, I'm sure it is, aiding and abetting a foreign government. Beginning in 2020. These are high crimes of treason. If someone in the intelligence community knew about this and did not alert President Trump at the time, or President Biden, or whoever it may be, Congress or the American people, this is taking place. We should see people getting perp walked right now, today. Who are they? We want to know who their names are because this cannot stand. A country cannot survive like this when you have treason to such a high level. Ladies and gentlemen, this cannot stand. Not at all. But now he went on to say that the Chinese targeted Trump to damage the election. Now here's where it kind of gets a little foggy, I would have to say. They did say, though, that further evidence shows that China was activating certain interference methods to specifically target President Trump, as the intelligence community was telling Trump and the American people the opposite. Okay. This would fall right in the hands of people like Avril Haines, who was leading the Department of National Intelligence, concluding that China did not interfere, as it considered, but did not deploy influence efforts intended to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Now, since the spring and summer of 2020, on at least 5 different occasions, intelligence reports have revealed that the United States election voting machines could be hacked by a foreign power because of specific vulnerabilities. Well, no kidding. Anything that you can plug in, anything that's electronic, anything that connects to the internet, folks, can be hacked. Never forget that. And that's why I said time and time again, why are we using these electronic voting machines? They come from other countries, by and large, or the software is installed by other countries, or what have you. Why are we doing this to ourselves? We don't need this. Certainly doesn't make anything faster. Go look at California. They're probably still counting the mayoral ballots, for God's sakes. Why are we doing this to ourselves? It just sets you up for more and more fraud. And so when I heard this, it's like a light bulb went off. I said, why are we not auditing these machines right now? We can do it. President Trump has the ability to go through and audit these machines. Why not? Run a forensic audit, see what they could hack or what was hacked. But the only way you can do it is by taking out the memory card from the machines and actually analyzing to see if someone went in and hacked it afterwards. Now, if he can do this, President Trump, and I believe he should, just showing one example of this would just topple everything out with these electronic voting machines. Because then you could say, well, look, hey, in this state, somebody got in the machines, they changed it this way. This should have been the outcome. This elected representative shouldn't be in this position. And it was hacked by X, Y, and Z. And A, B, and C knew about it. Now, this goes through a bigger problem. It's like a cycle. There's so many different players probably involved in all this, but he's got to show us this. You cannot just tell us this. And by the way, that's why I said when I'm going on and looking at some of these documents that they're said to have released, there's still redactions all over the place. Why? Tell us their names. Tell us what happened. I feel like I'm looking at the Epstein files, for God's sakes. I mean, come on. Let's be transparent. What's going on here? You can't tell me to go to your website, look at the files of this alleged fraud that took place, or hacking, or cybersecurity data that was breached. Where are the bad actors? What did they do specifically? What races were affected? And by the way, if it was just in 2020, are we suggesting that it didn't happen in 2022 or 2024 or will happen in 2026? What needs to be done? Trump cannot be a show and tell candidate, folks. In other words, he can tell us everything but show us nothing. Now, he can tell us, he can get it every single day. Have it stream all across America. But if he doesn't actually show us who the bad actors are, what they actually did, not what they're alleged to, what they actually did, then we have nothing here. That's why I'm saying to myself, I should be seeing people being perp walked today. He made the announcement yesterday evening that people should be arrested right away today. Who these bad actors inside our own government are. That is treason, ladies and gentlemen. That is conspiring with a foreign government. Lying to the American people. Why is Avril Haines, again, who apparently told us the opposite of what took place, not arrested right now? And if we're declassifying documents, why are you redacting information about election information, unless it's people-specific information? So in other words, you got all these people's information, right? That would make sense. But this isn't what it is. Let's be transparent. What actually is happening? Now, they wanted to talk about, for instance, in the summer and fall of 2020, the intelligence community watched a foreign adversary, Venezuela, move from theoretically hacking the machines to creating a practical plan that would accomplish it. And the plan was apparently so good that the post-election hand audit would not have been able to detect it. That's right. Because the only way you can detect it is if you go in and you do the audit yourself. This is what needs to happen. Anybody using that software from a foreign country, you need to go in and do a forensic audit. This is, it's a crucial time, folks. Trump is 100% correct on this, by the way. We need free and fair elections. I'm with him 100% on this. I believe most of the American people are. But if he cannot show us this directly, just take a county's electronic voting machines. I don't care where it is. Georgia, LA, New York. Could be in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, for all I care. I don't give a damn. But run a forensic audit, show exactly what's taking place, get all the computer programmers you want. I could care less. Run the audit and show, okay, this is what the outcome was told to the American people. Here's what it actually was, and here's how they did it. And here's who did it, by the way. That would stop a lot of this. And then we'd get people to go, okay, well, we have these in California. We've got them in Illinois. We've got them in New York. Oh, we got them in Seattle, Washington State. Okay, this is a big problem then. We haven't even gotten the information coming out of states like California because they're not complying with the federal government. You want to see fraud, go look at California, 100%. And Trump has the ability to do this. That's why I don't understand why we're dropping the ball on this one. This is a prime opportunity to show to the American people, once and for all, that these electronic voting machines are garbage, they can be hacked, and people are hacking them. And we have people in our own government that are doing it. And if we don't do that, what's the purpose of passing the SAVE Act, though? We have people that are on the voter rolls, of course, that are unable to vote. This is what it says here in the article on Just the News. Roughly 278,000 non-citizens were found on voter rolls. That's a drop in the bucket, folks. That's a drop in the bucket. We've got people in this country that shouldn't be here. We know there are at least tens of millions, if not at least 100 million people that do not belong here. And you're telling me none of them vote? Really? You have states like California that pass out fraudulent IDs. 1 million, and I believe it was 2015, if I'm not mistaken. These people shouldn't be voting, but they have an ID. So how can we determine If a state like California is going to give an illegal alien a driver's license, which will then put them in line to be registered to vote in the state of California, how do we even know that these people that are voting should be voting in the first place when you have a state that is violating our own immigration laws? Let that sink in. Where the hell's the DOJ on that one? Who are these people? Now, this could be a brilliant move by President Trump, maybe, that we got people to adhere to the real ID, or it could be more draconian lockdown, if you will, on our own rights, either way. But we've got to ask ourselves the question. If we found 278,000 non-citizens currently on the voter rolls, why are we not looking in states like California, New York, New Jersey, Vermont, all these blue states, all these blue-run states, and by the way, all the red states too. Go through everything. Go through all the voter rolls. They should be cleaned I would say at least every census, if not more than that. I mean, people move continually now, more than they did in the past. But we should be cleaning out the voter rolls roughly, I would say, every 5 years. Every 5 years, you got to go back in, re-register to vote, even if you live at the same location. You have to go back in, fill out your form, and do it that way. That seems reasonable. This makes sense. And you can do it at the precincts. You have the state set it up at that level. Whatever precinct you would be going to vote in, that's the place where you're going to go and fill out this information, yet again, should you want to be registered to vote. And we've got to stop the mail-in ballots. My God, can we stop this nonsense already? Using fraudulent voter rolls that haven't been updated in God knows how long, if they have even been, and we're just passing out these ballots all over the place. It's amazing to me. Clean the voter rolls, figure out who's in your states. This has got to be done. And stop with the mail-in ballots. Stop with the ballot harvesting. Make it illegal 100%. Unless, of course, you ask for an absentee ballot, but you have to go do that in person. I would have to say all this has to be done in person. That means you have to actually go and show your ID. And by the way, I want fingerprints now. We've got to secure this. We've got to have fingerprints done too. That way, when you go do your ID, you get your fingerprint along with your ID. That, again, is on the system. So when you go and vote and you put your thumb on there, they can validate, okay, this is this person. That makes sense. You go vote, you get your carbon copy of your ballot. As I've been saying time and time again, we should have copies of how we voted. We should be able to go online and check to see how that ballot was tallied. Now, I brought this up on yesterday's show. I'll say it to you again. This is a way we can confirm that our voters actually count. Because I can go online and I can say, hey, Marco Dreis voted. That doesn't tell me anything. What the hell does that mean? How do I know it counted? I need to see how it tallied into my precinct. So I should be able to go online. I should be able to go to my state. I should be able to go into my county. I should be able to go find my precinct of whatever precinct it is in my community where I'm told to go vote. You can only vote at that precinct, by the way. In California, they always mesh that up, by the way, too. You can go to another precinct. Should you want to, they can say, oh, we'll give you this ballot. It's ridiculous. You got to go where you're told to vote, not any place else. You get your paper ballot, you go to your machine, you obviously get it processed, you come back, and you're told that, yes, you voted. Okay, great. Maybe they put a stamp on it. I don't care what they do. They can do whatever the hell they want. But I should be able to go back after I voted, and it should tell me, yes, you're voter number 100 of 1,520 people. Here's how you voted. And I can see, okay, here's how voter 1 did, 2, 3, and you go down and down and down. Oh, look it. I was the 90th person that voted for President Trump. Great, in my precinct. Great, wonderful. That doesn't give your personal information, but it should have all the information for you as that voter. The state should be able to see, okay, voter 100 is Marco Dreis at such and such address. This is how he voted. And by the way, if I look at it and I say, okay, here's how I voted. Here's how it tallies in. I can go and look and say, okay, wait a minute. It's saying here I voted for Kamala Harris. I didn't vote for Kamala Harris. And I have my carbon copy to say, yeah, actually, this is how it is. And you can even have somebody at the precinct, whoever runs the damn precinct, sign off that, yes, everything checked out. Yes, this person was here. Yes, this is the person's fingerprint. You go through the system like that. You have to make it very difficult for them to cheat. That's the only way I could say it to you, folks. There's no other way we could do this. We've got to secure our elections. Again, I agree with President Trump on the SAVE Act, but he's got to show us the proof. Where are the receipts? Don't just tell me to go to a website and look up information. I want you to actually tell me, what is the problem here? I don't doubt there are non-citizens voting. We know this. We know this has been happening. And by the way, it's not just 278,000. That's just what they've found thus far. There's obviously much more involved here. Now, it says here that the FBI has also interviewed numerous subjects who were canvassing hired by GBI Strategies. This would be the Democratic National Committee and probably one of the largest funders of GBI Strategies, a Democratic-aligned voter registration and get-out-the-vote organization. Now, during the 2020 election, GBI reportedly received payments nearing $5 million from campaigns and committees. These canvassers, who were illegally paid per ballot, right? Understand this is the mail-in nonsense, were allegedly instructed that if at the end of the day they had not met their quota of ballots signed and received, to sign the ballots themselves. Didn't we see this in 2020, folks? We saw people at the precincts filling out ballots, shoving them in the machines. I mean, this is part of the insanity. Now, according to these documents to be released, the Biden DOJ blocked the FBI from indicting anybody in the matters for 4 years following the 2020 election. You were told to shut up and not ask any questions. Well, this is the problem now. This is part of the overall problem. And I can't even believe this is happening, but this is where we are. When you don't have free and fair elections, this is what happens. This is the end result of that. It's ripe with fraud. By the way, reportedly, the FBI and the Michigan State Police never investigated beyond Michigan and slowed down any further probes. Isn't that great? Isn't that what? Never even let President Trump know that this was happening. This is his own intelligence department. It's unbelievable. Now, before we move on to some economic topics of today, I do want to play you Alyssa Slotkin. And the reason I'm playing this for you was because the other day when they voted down the NDAA, which, by the way, I don't agree with it in its current form, but one of the things she said was we had to beat the SAVE Act. Take a listen to clip one.
The other thing that we blocked yesterday was the SAVE Act, right? Which was literally allow this administration to rig our democracy so that it would be hard for any Democrat in any state to win any election.
Now, why would that be? Why would creating these safeguards make it more difficult for Democrats to win in any state? Ask yourself that question, folks. I think you'll find the answer very, very soon. Very, very troubling this is happening. This has got to pass. I don't think it should pass with the NDA as it is. You know why I believe that? Because I don't like the merger of the U.S. and Israeli governments in terms of military intelligence. I think it's just as treasonous as what we're seeing right here. Somebody working on behalf of the FBI and the intelligence community allowing the Chinese illegals to acquire voter databases. I don't think this is right. Nobody should think this is right. Congress should act on this. Trump needs to show us the receipts on this. Who are the people doing this? Why are they not arrested? Show us who they are. You got my full support on that one, President Trump. 100%. Oh, by the way, though, as a result of yesterday evening, we see the Democrats coming out of the woodwork. So, of course, they're very concerned about how this is moving forward. And late on Thursday, Senator Ed Malarkey, that's what I call him. His real name's Ed Markey, but I call him Ed Malarkey. That's all he is. Called on Congress to then impeach President Trump after the president claimed during the primetime address that forces stole the 2020 election. So get ready for more of this, folks. This is only the tip of the iceberg should President Trump lose both the House and the Senate come this fall. Let's pray that doesn't happen. But this is why the Democrats want this, because this is just going to put Trump in a stalemate from passing any meaningful legislation moving forward and really just bog him down. That's what it's all about. And by the way, folks, let's go on now to some economic articles just to close off the week. Now that we've discussed this, where do we stand in our economy? Well, Tampa Free Press says that the working class voters are now turning away from President Trump on the economy. This is what a CNN analysis has shown. Harry Enton Enton, I don't know what his name is. He's the guy that always gets hyped up when he's talking about these polls. This is the guy that told us that 100% of MAGA was still with President Trump. Take that as you will, folks. But what they showed in this recent polling was that annual incomes of under $50,000 in a household reveal that 82% of the respondents consider groceries to be unaffordable. Only 16% of the individuals within this income bracket stated that the groceries remain affordable. Now, across the broader American public, 66% of all the respondents reported that the grocery prices are unaffordable. There you go, folks. There you go. So you're losing a huge chunk of the working class right now. They are not behind President Trump. This is a big problem. These are the people he needs to win. Just thought I'd share that with you right now. And on top of that, this is out of Quartz. It says here that U.S. retail sales rose by 0.2% in June, up 6.7% from just a year ago. Yeah, this is part of the bigger problem. We just heard that groceries are unaffordable for people in a household earning $50,000 or less. Okay? Now what we're seeing is that the U.S. retail and food services rose by 0.2% in just the month of June. This is a lot, folks. Now, it might not seem like a lot, but it's up. Everything is up from where it was just a year ago. Total sales up by 6.7% from June of 2025. What happened in June of 2025? Oh, that's right. We decided to go in and start bombing Iran amid negotiations, which is illegal, by the way. Okay. Then we have the April to June period where that was up 6.4% from the same stretch a year earlier. May's month-over-month was revised up to 1% from an initial reading of 0.9%. This is all by the Census Bureau data, folks. This is all out there. This is what we're looking at right now. A 5.3% decline in gasoline station receipts weighed the overall number. Strip out the gasoline and sales were up 0.7%. Now, you're getting information. I've shared this with you. Kevin Moore shared that the inflationary numbers were down in the month of June to 3.5%. This is what President Trump also alluded to during his speech yesterday. That inflation was down month over month. Well, of course it was. Gas prices went down, so we saw some of the inflation go down. However, it didn't trickle down to the core inflation, what we actually pay when we go to buy products, goods and services. All that is still heavily elevated, folks. We're seeing non-store realtors, a category that includes e-commerce, climb 1.9%, posting the largest month-over-month gain among major categories. Sporting events, hobbies, musical instruments, bookstores all rose 1.3%, while electronics and appliance stores gained 0.8%, and motor vehicle and part dealers increased by 1.9%. Everything is going up. Food services, drinking places, bars. The Retail Report Loan Survey entry posted a 0.1% increase, putting them at 3.8% ahead of where they stood just a year ago. So there you go, folks. Everything is up. It's not coming down anytime soon. By the way, excluding both the automobile, the gasoline sales, everything else rose 0.4%. This is what they're suggesting. The Census Bureau also noted that 90% confidence interval for the headline monthly change includes 0, meaning that there is not sufficient statistical evidence to conclude the change is different from 0. Imagine that. You are losing consumer confidence in the economy, folks. Nothing is changing. And Trump has got to know about this. He has to know about this. If he doesn't sway people to think the economy is moving in the right direction, then he's in trouble. People vote on how the economy is doing. They don't care much about anything else. Some people are single-issue voters. I understand that. Some people will vote based on what a certain politician does with abortion or whatever, or immigration. Some people vote like that. But the vast majority of Americans vote by how their pocketbook is doing, how their wallet is doing. They don't give a damn about anything else. They want, obviously, to be able to afford things. And if they can't do that, they look for the next best option. That's why you see, for example, the Gen Z revolution going on right now. That's why they're migrating over to people like Mom Dummy or Katie Wilson or the lunatic in Colorado that just won or whomever else. The communists now running as Democratic Socialists of America, who are nothing more than red diaper doper babies. This is what they want. They want communism. And they sell it nice. They make you think that everything's great. Everyone's going to prosper. We'll all prosper together. We'll just tax that trillionaire Elon Musk a bit, right? We'll get that $1 trillion and we'll distribute it all around America. And everything is just going to be fantastic. You know, someone did this way back when to John D. Rockefeller. Someone came up to him and said, we should tax you more. And what he did was he opened up his wallet, took out a dime and said, if everybody taxed me, if everyone distributed my money to everybody, and I'm not a fan of the Rockefellers at all. I understand who they are. But he took out a dime and said, this is what you would get if everybody just took all of my money. You'd tax the hell out of me. And he's right about that. He's right about that. The same thing goes when we're talking about just taxing. That's all they seem to want to do. They want control. That's what it's all about. And that's why these policies are detrimental. They're very bad. Now, not helping ourselves, the Republicans are also going to be fighting the mortgage rates now that are jumping to the highest level in almost a year. So people that want homes, folks, you have that 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Yeah. Climbing to 6.55%. That's what Freddie Mac says. This is right out of Fox Business. They released on Thursday showing that the average rate on the benchmark 30-year fixed mortgage climbed to 6.55%, the highest level since August of 2025, where the last week's reading was 6.49%. And the average rate on a 30-year loan was 6.75% just a year ago. This is it, folks. People want to buy homes, especially young people. They're starting out in their careers. They want to start their families, their futures. Looking at housing, and they realize they can't buy it. Why? Because the median home prices right now in America are the highest they've ever been. They're not going down. Supply and demand tells us exactly just that. When you do not incentivize more building, when you allow this to happen, you have people that can't buy homes. It's as simple as that. Right here in the article saying the purchase application demand has weakened recently, but housing affordability is more favorable and housing inventory continues to rise. Thus, the backdrop for the prospective home buyers is modestly improving. Well, again, if you can't buy the house, though, what's going to happen? This is part of the problem. The average rate on a 50-year fixed mortgage rate rose to 5.93% from last week's reading of 5.82%. It's all going up, folks. It's all going up. And this is the end result of all this. We can look at the several factors as to why this is. The Fed rate, geopolitics. Fed might raise interest rates soon. Now, mortgage rates are not directly affected by the Fed's interest rate decisions. They track closely more to the 10-year Treasury yield. Well, what's happening with that? Those are both going up as well. The 10-year yield hovered around 4.57% as of Thursday afternoon. This is up from the 5.55% it was just the other day. What did I tell you? I said once the bond market hits what, folks? 5%, you're in economic calamity. Don't forget I told you that. Everything is going up because inflation's going up. That's why this is happening. Now we can sit here and say, well, the inflation was cooling, Gervais. Come on. Everything's going to work out just fine. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was for the month of June. What just happened? Just last week, we resumed the war with Iran. The war is back on, baby. It's on. And what happens now? Well, the Strait of Hormuz stays closed. That means oil doesn't come out. Certainly not to the level it should be. Oh, yeah, we got some Iranian ships to come through, some Chinese ships to come through, some Indian ships to come through. Great. I'm happy about that. But we're not getting the same flow of all the goods and services that come out of that region, the helium, the aluminum, the urea, the sulfur, the oil, the liquefied natural gas, you name it, it's not coming out. And we need it to come out. It's affecting the entire global economy. And most people can't seem to figure that out. They say that, we're happy that we're winning this war. We're not winning this war. That's a part of the bigger problem. It's a facade. It's a farce. It's not happening. We're not winning this conflict. We're not getting military control over the Strait of Hormuz. That means the Iranians still have a lot of leverage on us then, folks. If we were winning, we would open up that strait right now, wouldn't we? But we're not doing it. Big problems, folks. Big problems. We'll go over the war in just a little bit, folks. I do want to say to you as well, though, before we get into our stock market numbers, I saw this in Fortune, and I had to tell you, my audience, because this is part of us getting ripped off. Get a load of this. The U.S. companies have finally gotten their $71 billion in tariff refunds. But instead of just reinventing in their own companies, they're using it to offset the inflation caused by the Iran war. Isn't that nice? So not only did you pay more for goods during these ridiculous tariffs that were illegal, Trump foolishly used the IEEPA, which was the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, in February of 2025. We started issuing this out. Why we did this, again, I have no idea. But U.S. Customs and Border Protection issued $49.2 billion in refunds in June, according to the U.S. Treasury's monthly statements, bringing the total tariff refunds to about $71 billion. Now, this goes to the companies. Doesn't come to you, does it? Of course not. But did you pay those higher prices? Of course you did. Of course you did. So not only did you pay them more, not only did the companies that buy these products pay more, right? It all goes through a scheme, folks. The imports coming in, they pay the tariff right before it even got there, right? Those companies that brought that in, they rose prices on you. They had to. How else are they going to make a profit? So you foolishly went and bought those goods, right, that cost more money. May have been a little bit more, $1, $2, 30 cents, doesn't matter what it was. They made billions. They made billions out of these deals. And you bought it. You, the consumer. Then we have SCOTUS coming in, striking down the tariffs, again saying that the IEEPA was fraudulent way back in February. And now we've got to give that money back. We've got to give it back to these companies, though. Don't you know that? The bigs are getting bigger, folks, and you're getting poorer. Whether you believe it or not, that's the case here. It's unbelievable. Can you imagine that? You paid for the price of which we said we were collecting tariffs. Now we're giving them this money that the government collected from these companies that import these goods to the United States because we're not producing them here. They rose the prices. You paid for it. And now we're going to take that money and give it back to the people that got the money for that difference in those tariffs. It's a total bait. It's a bait and switch. It's a Ponzi scheme, if you will. It's amazing to me. Notice it didn't come to you, the consumer, people that actually pay for it. Never forget, inflation is a hidden tax, and all tariffs are a tax, folks. Never forget that. So when you hear the word, we're going to issue more tariffs, remember I told you yesterday on the program, we're going to put a 25% tariff on all Brazilian imports coming in? Well, that's a tariff. That's a tax on you buying Brazilian goods. Whether it be high quality beef, whether it be orange juice, coffee, doesn't matter what it is. You're paying for that difference. You're paying for the difference. And now what they're going to say is, well, if you buy that Brazilian coffee, we've got to make sure we refund that Brazilian company now, even though you paid for that already. It's amazing to me. It's amazing they get away with this nonsense. But I just wanted to share that with you folks. I figured you'd be equally pissed off as I am hearing all this nonsense. Should go back to the consumers. All right. Before we get into our stocks, I've got to share this with you. This is out of Bloomberg, and it will set the tone for our tech stock report today. It says chip stocks sink into bear market as 105% AI Rally Fizzles. Oh, yeah. Look at that, folks. A closely watched index of semiconductor stocks is set to fall into a bear market, unwinding a chunk of the blistering memory-led rally that saw the gauge more than double in just 3 months. Look at this. Look at this. The Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, known as SOX, shed as much as 5.7% on Friday, bringing down their drawdown from late June record to more than 20%. So let me explain this to you. Anytime the market shifts above 20%, they call that the bull market, right? Bulls are strong, right? Oh, good. Anything that drops and dips below 20% or more, that would be the bear market. We're in a bear market now with our AIs. And again, this is just the indicator which we look at, but the 30 stock chip benchmark has soared previously to 105% between March and its low and its last month's peak. So they were at a high, and now we're dropping very low, folks. This is what's going on with our tech stocks, folks. And the reason why this is more than likely taking place has to do with a lot of the availability to the semiconductors, if you will, a lot of the valuation, the profit taking that's going on, and you'll see very soon as to why this is happening. And let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into our stocks right away. Let's not waste any time. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones. It's trading at $52,221.22 in the red at less than, 0.63% today. The S&P 500 trading at $7,470.63, down 0.84%. And the NASDAQ is trading at $25,583.47, down 1.15% today. So we're seeing a lot of mixed reports in the performance. The S&P, the Dow are relatively stable, but the NASDAQ faces pressure coming from a lot of the tech and the AI sector sell-offs that are happening. All of this is tied into the tech stocks. Never forget that. Bitcoin today is trading at $64,249. I'm sorry, it just changed right on me. I have it live. $64,211.63. It's down quite a bit, folks. Yep. I mean, where it was a year ago, folks, if we look at this, where it was last July, it was trading at $118,000. Yeah. Look at that one. Moving on, Amazon trading at $247.74 a share, down 2.15% today, ladies and gentlemen. Apple's trading at $333.99, up a meager 0.22%. Looking at NVIDIA, down by 1.94% today, trading at $203.38 a share. We got Advanced Micro Devices, trading at $497.45 a share, down 0.7% today. And then we look at Microsoft, trading at $395.04, down 6 points roughly. We look at Meta, down 2.85%, trading at $645.63 a share. And then we got Google, Alphabet, whatever you want to call it, trading today at $345.42 a share, down 2.55% in the red. And Dell Technologies, one of the few in the green today, folks, trading at $401.56 a share, trading up at 2.6% today. Looking fairly good. And then we got Micron, trading at just under 2% today, above at 1.99%, trading at $870.16 a share. How about Broadcom? Let's take a look at them. Just in the red, down 0.34%, trading at $373.16 a share. And finally, Tesla today. A little bit in the red today, folks, down 2.48%, trading at $381.35 a share. So, what's going on with our wonderful tech stocks today, folks? We've got a mixed but slightly defensive pattern going on here right now. A lot of it's driven, of course, by the AI infrastructure leaders, showing some relative strength, while the consumer sentiment and the ad-driven names like NVIDIA, Microsoft continue to act as stabilizers, supported by the ongoing demand for AI going on. The cloud services, we've got Amazon and Tesla are a little bit softer, reflecting pressure on consumer discretionary and the EV sentiments going on right now. Advanced Micro Devices, Broadcom, are trading in line with the semiconductor complex, which is seeing a bit of a rotation right now from its broader uptrend right now. And Meta, Alphabet, those types of tech companies are slightly weaker as investors trim exposure to ad-dependent mega caps. Micron is choppy following the memory pricing volatility. Well, we see Dell trading modestly lower, just a little bit, but still up today as we see the enterprise hardware demand remains uneven. So overall, folks, we got a little bit of a mixed bag going on today, but overall, folks, as I told you before, the government's bullish on AI. That's why you're seeing a lot of the people investing in it. AI is the future. It's going to be the future. That doesn't mean that we will not have an AI bubble. Again, we looked at the chip stocks dipping on Thursday after, again, the Taiwanese semiconductors company posted an increase in their spending. Well, increase in spending, folks. Yeah, what's going to happen? You create that bubble, and if we don't produce anything, if people start pulling out because they're not getting a profit, you're going to see that bust. And that's what I've told you is probably likely going to happen, folks. I don't say that to you because I want it to happen. I'm saying it to you because that's what we're seeing right now. Every trend is indicating, like the dot-com bust, we're going to have an AI bust before it gets better. Take that as you will, folks. Take that as you will when you invest. All right, let's jump into our precious metals today, folks, where we look at our oil stocks. Gold trading at $4,014.50, up 0.56% today. Silver in the green, also just up at 0.27%, trading at $56.34 a share. Platinum down almost 2%, trading at $1,609.90. And palladium, a flat $1,253, down 1.52%. You know what? When I look at where we are, folks, with the precious metals, I know a lot of you were asking me, for instance, as to how the gold was doing. You're seeing a lot of things mixed because a lot of the Federal Reserve banks are investing in the gold, so it's a much more in-demand commodity right now. The same thing goes with silver. Again, it's a precious metal that can obviously be used in place of the paper currency, and it's also used in military, even, for instance, weaponry uses silver, for God's sakes. So the supply and demand shifts things around. A lot of people right now, as I said to you before, are bullish on the AI now. A lot of people are bullish too on the oil right now. So there's a little bit of a shift in the market. I do believe it will continue to go up once you see that dollar begin to fall and you see inflation really start to soar because of the Iran war. That's my take on it. All right. Let's jump in now to oil. Let's not waste any time there. I know you're all focused on this. How much is my gas going to be? Of course. We've got West Texas Intermediate today right now, hot off the press, trading at $82.20 a barrel, up 4.2% today. Brent crude, trading at $87.77, up 4.2% today. We've got Murbain crude coming out of the Middle East inside the Persian Gulf, trading at $82.25 a barrel today. Yep, up pretty good, folks. Looking at Dubai crude, $82.38 a share today. Again, everything's going up, folks, significantly. West Texas Intermediate, a Western Canadian Select, trading at $55.12 today. And Urals crude coming out of Russia, trading at $74.88 a barrel, the latest data coming out from Russia. So you're asking yourself, Gervais, why is this all happening to us? What's going on, Gervais? We saw the prices going down recently. It was back in the close to the $60, range, if you will. What's going on? Well, you know what's going on. We have the geopolitical tensions. The U.S. renewing the Iran war, of course, is going to threaten the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which the Iranians have now shut down. So you have increased supply concerns. No kidding. No kidding. When you don't get the right resources out of that region, when you don't get the right amount of fertilizer or the oil or the liquefied natural gas, you're going to have these problems. You want helium for your semiconductors? 44% of the global supply comes out of the Persian Gulf. It's not coming out. Those ships are locked down right now as I speak. By and large, again, you can go to marinetracker.com, folks. See it for yourself. You don't believe me? I tell you the truth. This is what's going on right now. So when they say we're doing well, we're winning, what are we winning? We're winning the demise of our own country, our own economy. We're not planting the proper crops because we're not getting the right amount of fertilizer. We have farmers defaulting on loans because they can't make the prices that are rising because We got what? 35% of the urea and the sulfur necessary for fertilizer to plant crops for us, folks, is not coming out of that region. So farmers either need to get more money, if they can, which is going to cause the crops to rise, or they're just simply saying, I'm out of business. I'm not planting this season. And don't forget, folks, what I told you. What you don't plant today, you don't have 6 months from now. So you might not feel it right now. You might say, Gervais, come on. I'm going to the grocery. I've got all the strawberries in the world I can get. Just don't get Driscoll's, by the way. That's another story for another day. I got green beans, Gervais. I got everything I want. What are you talking about? Come on. Every week, stocking it right up. Well, if I were you, I would buy a bunch of it. I would freeze a bunch of it if I were you. If you like broccoli, if you like everything. That'd be a good idea for you right now. Because, folks, it probably isn't going to be there 6 months from now, by and large. Unless we really, really turn things around, or if we get more fertilizer coming in from Canada, if we can. We may have a way out. But again, folks, we're not getting the right amount in. That's why you're seeing the price of food continuing to go up. Now, then, of course, it costs more to get it to where it needs to go. Look at the oil prices. Look at the diesel prices. Look at the diesel necessary for the tractors, right, that are needed to plant these crops. It's going to cost more for the diesel. It's going to cost more for the farmer. It's going to cost more for you to ship it. And it's going to cost you, the consumer, more at the grocery store. That's the way it works. We've got also supply chain issues, folks. I told you this before. Diesel, we're simply not getting the proper amount coming into the U.S. We're driving down our strategic preserves. All this is a big problem. All this is a major problem going on right now. But we have the inventory signals right now. The U.S. crude inventories are significantly lower. We're in lots of trouble with that. Again, that's supporting the price hikes right now. Refinery demands right now. Utilization is roughly near 96%, with demands slightly up. 70% of the refineries in the United States are set up to take in the heavy or sour crude, is what it's called, on the market. So this comes out of Mexico. It comes out of Canada. None of it comes out of the U.S. So while we drill, baby, drill in the U.S., and I'm not opposed to that, we're only getting the sweet crude, right? That's the crude that is refined to make gasoline, for instance. But it's not what makes diesel. It's not what makes jet fuel. It's not what you put in a tractor or in a tractor trailer. All that comes from diesel. That's why you're seeing the prices go up. That's why it's happening, folks. You heard it here first, but we have supply side risk going on right now. All this is from the Iran war. All right, folks, that's all I got for you. Oh, by the way, too, just another thing I got for you as for the oil. It's going to continue to go up, and I got this out of CNBC just for you. Oil prices rise after Kuwait says Iran attacked water desalination and power plants. There we go, folks. What did Iran say? You harbor the United States, we're going to start bombing you. There you go. Tit for tat. Yep. Coming your way. All right, folks, we got about 8 minutes remaining in the program. Let's jump over to Reuters right now. Let's see what we can get in from our other topics today. It says Americans are angry about data centers. Politicians are feeling the pressure about it. Well, yeah. Who would want their data stored? Look what we just heard about what the Chinese are doing. All this information being put out about you, the American citizen, without your permission. So people come in and do what? What can they do with it? Sell it? Sell it to other countries? Yeah. You don't think so? Of course they would. Why wouldn't they? We just didn't believe that the FBI would be, covering for them, of course. It's amazing to me. When we look at these data centers, when we look at who is controlling them, for instance, we look at people like the Larry Ellisons of the world, the Oracle guy, right? Yeah, they're going to put these in different communities. It's amazing to me. They're going to try to put them in rural America. Why? Because they need lots of fresh access to water. It's going to require a lot of it to keep this infrastructure running. But a lot of people, and it gives us an example of Michigan, for instance. They're talking about farming, putting it where there's farming communities, this and that. Why? Stop it. They don't want this. They're putting up these towering fences, a $16 billion project, right? Turning a town of 2,400 people in rural Michigan and making it an AI data center. Isn't that nice? Yeah. They'll pour the money in. They'll get everything they want out of the city council. Hey, they want more water? They got it. Snap of a finger. You, the small farmer, well, of course they can tell you to go to hell, right? Now, I don't tell you that. I appreciate the farmer. I appreciate the small guy, the small business owner. The people want to access the water in the community and what have you. The people want to go hiking. I mean, there are ways to do this and there are ways not to do this, folks. But Oracle, OpenAI, this is interesting too. It mentions this in this article because I had another article out of the Daily Mail. And it says, Wall Street expert says a massive stock market crash is coming, and this tech company will be the first domino to fall. What company is that? The eye of the hurricane is the tech giant Oracle, folks. Yep. This is what they're predicting. And why? Because they're putting all their eggs in one basket. They're heavily betting the farm on the AI revolution, no doubt about it. They're building these colossal data centers. Look what I just told you about Michigan. To power technology, but the experts warn that the stakes for this gamble could backfire spectacularly. Of course, OpenAI is what they're entirely dependent upon. And the capital markets remaining wide open meet the financial obligations. Well, what are they doing? If this collapses, if they go all in just on OpenAI, the collapse would not only destroy Oracle, but it would take down the rest of the AI market. This is why I told you. Everything's getting bubbled up right now. They're pumping a lot of money into this. But if it crashes, it doesn't bring the necessary profits. What happens? The whole market drops out, folks. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing right now. And so right now, I won't bore you with the entire article, of course. But they're borrowing a lot of money. They're borrowing several billions of dollars. Oracle's cash flow went from a positive $11.8 billion in fiscal year 2024 to a negative $23.7 billion in fiscal year 2026. Why? Because they're spending more cash, they're investing more cash faster than they're earning the cash. So in other words, you can throw all the money you want in the world. If you don't get any type of cash flow coming back in or revenue, what do you really have? You have nothing. And this is what's happening with this AI. Oracle is one example, of course, maybe the biggest example. But the money they're pouring in, they're dumping into this, is not creating the right valuation. This is a problem. Even the SEC filings show that Oracle has a staggering $638 billion in future contract volume on its books. Approximately half of it is from OpenAI alone. What if that crumbles? This is the parent of the ChatGPT, right? What if that crumbles? What do you have in your company? Yeah, you're going to go broke. It's amazing. So if OpenAI fails, listen to this, OpenAI fails to secure this funding, or if the AI bubble pops, which again I told you, it's going to pop in 2026, folks. You heard it from me first. Oracle, in its massive debt, will be completely left exposed. If that happens, you're going to take down the tech sector with you, because that's where they're heavily invested. As you hear from me every single week as I update you on what's going on. So now we've got construction in this area. They're trying to invest all this money, for instance, in this rural area of Michigan. Obviously concerns about its impact on the small town's water supply, of course, because you know they're going to come in and take it. That's the only reason why they want to be there. They don't want to invest in the people. Don't misunderstand me. They're not going to do that. What are you thinking? These people are interested in protecting the farmland, of course, and the people are very much opposed to this in these areas. No doubt about it. Only 14% of respondents would even support a data center being built in their own community. And that's true and indicative all across America. They don't want this. They don't want the resources taken, certainly. And who could blame them? Who could blame them? Why would they want this? It's unbelievable, folks. But this is what they're going to try to push for, in the future. I don't think they're going to be successful in it. Oh, by the way, before we end today's program, I did want to say to you regarding Trump's, idea that we're building our military up again. Folks, it takes 10 years to build up a military. This is out of the AP. I'll share it with you quickly. The analysis was released in May that found that the U.S. military contractors said they will need at least 3 years to replenish the stockpiles of Tomahawks, Patriots, and THAAD interceptors. which indicates that we are dwindling in our military supply as we continue to wage war. But thanks for being here today. I appreciate you. I'll see you on Monday. Until then, be good, stay busy. God bless.